All right, good evening. Welcome to the January 14th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that you join our City Attorney, Yolanda Summerhill, in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Please rise. Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chair Andranian.
I am here.
Vice Chair Jericho.
Here.
Commissioner Harlan.
Here.
Commissioner Navarro-Woods.
Here.
Commissioner Zick.
Here. All right, we don't have any announcements and presentations from staff tonight. So at this point, open up the public comment period to ensure fair and equal treatment of all who appear before the Planning Commission and to expedite city business. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes during public comments to speak on any item within the Planning Commission's jurisdiction, which is not listed on the agenda. So if you're here to speak on any particular agenda item, there's going to be a separate public hearing for or public comment period for each one of those items that's on tonight's agenda. So if you're here to speak on something that is not on the agenda but is within our jurisdiction, now is the time to come up and speak about it. All right, seeing none, move on to Planning Commissioner comments and suggestions. We will start with Commissioner Zick.
Just want to wish everyone a happy new year. I think 2019 will be a great one, especially in our city. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice. Commissioner Woods.
Happy New Year. I think it's going to be a great one, too.
Commissioner Harlan.
I'll echo the same sentiments of my fellow commissioners.
Vice Chairman DeErico.
A lot of pressure. Oh, yeah. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
All right, and I'll just ditto everybody else's comments, and that was like the happiest Planning Commission comments we've ever had. All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the Planning Commission, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for discussion. Items removed from the consent calendar will be discussed and voted upon immediately following Planning Commission action on the remainder of the consent calendar. Members of the public who wish to discuss the consent calendar items should come forward to the microphone now and state the number of the item you want addressed. All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to move the consent calendar?
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the consent calendar.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All right, we have a motion and a second. Call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0.
Okay, let's move on to public hearing item number 1.
Public hearing item number 1. Planning application 18-28, a master plan for the development of the Orange County Museum of Art at 655 Town Center Drive. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Mr. Chairman, I had a meeting with Mr. Todd Smith from the museum last week. I've had a couple of telephone conversations over the last couple of months with Mr. Justin McCusker from C.J. Seegers.
All right, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I also had a meeting with Mr. Smith this past week.
I had a brief meeting with Mr. Smith this morning, and I just asked some odds and ends, and I'll try to re-ask my questions during the public hearing just for the sake of everyone else.
All right, staff presentation.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. As mentioned, this is PA 1828, the master plan for the Orange County Museum of Art. It is important to note on the slide that the existing parcel site is identified as 655 Town Center Drive, but the applicant has proposed and the city has approved the revised address to be 3333 Avenue of the Arts once developed. The The master plan for the development of the Orange County Museum of Art is for a new 53,875 square foot art museum with a 27,087 square foot second floor outdoor terrace. A portion of that terrace may be redeveloped in the future for a potential future expansion of 10,000 square feet, which is included as part of this master plan proposal. The site is located in the Theater Arts District. Surrounding this project, to the south is the Plaza Tower, to the west is the Segerstrom Concert Hall, to the north is Segerstrom Hall and the Julian and George Arduous Plaza, and to the east is the Avenue of the Arts Hotel and the 580 Anton project. The site is zoned specifically for this master planned area as town center. It is surrounded by other planned development locations that fall within the North Costa Mesa specific plan. This includes the PDC zone, which covers the South Coast Plaza, the residential zones, which cover the Avenue of the Arts apartments and the Avenue of the Arts Hotel and the 580 Anton project, and the PDC project to the southeast, which is the Met, and will include the future Symphony apartments. Obviously, to the north is the city of Santa Ana, and to the south, the 405. The guiding documents for this particular project started with the South Coast Plaza Town Center Master Plan, which was developed to develop a preliminary master plan for the area. That master plan was adopted in the development agreement between the city and the owners at the time, which locked in the preliminary master plan for 20 years in 2001. That development agreement and the master plan was rolled into the North Costa Mesa specific plan, the Costa Mesa Theater Arts District Plan, which provided guidelines, designs, and access and uses within the area. That Theater Arts District Plan and all preceding documents were rolled into the North Costa Mesa specific plan and was adopted within that specific plan with the assortment of other master planned projects. And then the recent 2015-2035 general plan recognizes the preliminary entitlements and the potential use as a museum. The existing primary document for this space would be then the North Costa Mesa specific plan, which provides the preliminary entitlements and provides the direction for the applicant specifically to propose a project-specific master plan that will provide the details of the development once those details are known, and that's exactly what the applicant is proposing to provide today, the details of the new art museum. This site plan is drawn from the Theater Arts District. It identifies what is encompassing in the Theater Arts District. This includes everything north of the 405, east of Bristol, west of Avenue of the Arts, and south of Sunflower. This includes uses such as office use, restaurant uses, several performing art venues, and over 5 parking structures to accommodate the parking demand on site. The North Costa Mesa specific plan refers to this, the entitlements within sub-area 2, which is highlighted in blue boundary on the map, and the specific project is encompassed by the red boundary. As you can see from the visuals and from the description provided previously, this site is a mix of uses and provides a higher intensity than other uses throughout the city and leverages a distributed protocol for parking demand and circulation throughout the site. The preliminary master plan entitlements included a maximum FAR of 1.67 and a maximum non-residential square footage of 815,285 for that entire sub-area 2 site. That was the area in the blue. And as you can see from this chart, both those, even with the new museum proposed, would fall within the boundaries and confines of both those preliminary entitlements. There are site-specific requirements for the museum itself. This includes a maximum building square footage of 140,000 square feet, a maximum height of 315, And types of uses that are permitted being museum, events, academy, and a multi-family residential component that was approved in 2016 to allow for an additional 80 units, which is not part of the proposed project tonight. And as you can see, the project is well under 50% of any of the other proposed maximums to the site specifically. The site currently is a vacant lot that is maintained per the development agreement in a park-like manner with grass and gravel and trees, and is used for a variety of uses, including movies during the summer and special events. The proposed museum has 3 floors, a first floor, a mezzanine, and a second floor. On the first floor level, it houses the special exhibit space, the regular exhibit space, the window gallery space, a variety of back-of-house uses to support catering, loading, warehousing, storage, and several utility rooms to provide space for the equipment necessary to air, cool, heat, and provide energy to the site. There is also this space here, the structure in the front, which is a stair structure for passive sitting to enjoy the view of the plaza space. And this is the building is oriented towards the plaza. This is the front of the building, and the back of house runs between, the back of house is to the south, where there's the fire lane between Plaza Tower and the proposed site. The mezzanine location provides for additional gallery space and office uses and some utility space. And the second floor provides for the classroom, academy space for discussions for visiting students, an event space, and access to the second floor outdoor trellis space and landscaping that is the predominant feature of the second floor. And lastly, the roof has some enclosed structure space. It's included with the FAR for utilities that will be enclosed to increase the aesthetic, not only from the ground, but from the mid to high rises above the project. Plaza Tower, Center Tower. Some specifics on the operation and maintenance of the site. To the south of the project, there's an existing fire lane that will be maintained and kept. It has been conditioned to be upgraded to pervious pavers to increase the aesthetic and quality and look of the project, and that pedestrian walkway that it's predominantly used at when it's not necessary to be used as a fire lane. And the only back of house visible from the street, really providing a 360-degree kind of design, is the 44 linear feet that provides for the egress and ingress onto the loading area. And this site has been conditioned to provide indoor or interior trash pickup and in loading and unloading. So none of that will be visible from Avenue of the Arts. The project, since it has a substantial second floor terrace, which includes over 15,000 square feet of flat space that's flexible and programmable, as well as over 11,000 square feet of landscaping space, have some conditions to ensure that lighting is directed only towards the site and that doesn't bleed into the surrounding neighbors, and that sound is maintained on site in a reasonable fashion. The picture here, I think, eloquently shows a couple of the circulation elements of the site. This includes the sidewalk that runs along Avenue of the Arts. It's bifurcated to allow for the required easement sidewalk for ADA compliance along the street, and then a second sidewalk that allows for visitors or passerbys to look at the window gallery that will be presenting some of the exhibition or art pieces that are inside the museum. And it also shows the bus turnout where these cars are temporarily stationed to provide for bus drop-off and pickup for the school kids that will be attending the museum. As mentioned before, there is a proposed bus turnout as part of this project. It is included in the easement that is required and conditioned by the city. This bus turnout will be for pickup and drop-off, as mentioned, for the buses. There is also a condition to require a bike rack that can be placed on site. This point is only for reference. There is no, the specific location of the bike rack will be determined in the circulation plan that's been conditioned for the site. and the proposed project and its design allows for the required pedestrian linkages as required in the Theater Arts District plan. So it's consistent. Further on the discussion of parking for those patrons who are coming by vehicle, the site has several parking structures, two within close proximity, the one near Weston and the one north of Segerstrom Hall. The total parking spaces of all the parking structures on site exceed 7,000. The estimated demand for parking, according to a parking study done by a third party, is 40 during peak demand during the day. And during special events, when there's additional demand, there is an excess of 644 parking spaces throughout the center to accommodate that additional demand. To note the activity space, this is a unique addition to a development in the Theater Arts District. It some required some additional conditions that the applicant is in agreement with, but it provides a passive landscaping space and a flat work space and stairs that can be amenitized for exhibits, events, and just a positive aesthetic perspective from the various high-rises throughout the area. As noted in this perspective and rendering, they also are covering the roof utility rooms with a lattice work to obscure those and create an additional aesthetic to the design. These are the elevations of the project. They show the project addresses each of the sides, northwest, south, and east, with various amenities including window gallery, trees, articulation, and quality materials. All signage that will be required on the site will be submitted through a separate plan signing program as required per code. And this provides you perspective on the scale of the building, which is considerably shorter than what was allowed per code and per its entitlements and in scale with the surrounding buildings. This is a view from the landscaping throughout the site, showing consistency in landscaping, treatment of trees, shrubs, and passive space that connects this proposed project with the surrounding landscaping space. The project, after review, complies with all general plan, with several general plan objectives, goals, and policies, and meets and exceeds the zoning requirements and is within the entitlements from the preliminary master plan. The recommendation from staff is to adopt a resolution to approve an addendum to the previously approved final program EIR and to approve the master plan subject to conditions of approval as amended, which includes the preliminary provided supplemental memo. This concludes my presentation. If planning commissioners have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, the applicant does have a presentation for you today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Enlows. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Commissioner Zick.
Thank you. Dan, as part of what we're being asked to approve, there is this future 10,000 square foot expansion. I didn't see it in any of the diagrams you showed. Do you have an idea where that is?
Yes. In the previous elevations shown here, it's faint, but you can see that they propose a boxed area along the back or southern portion of the site that would extend the second story portion over to where the line of trees are. Along the back of the property, it would be most visible from Anton, and from an aerial view, it would be a portion of this passive landscaping space, which would be the 10,000 square foot addition. We do not have any design specifics on the second floor expansion at this time.
So that kind of ties into what my question was about that expansion. As we start the project, we have the 11,266 square feet of passive landscaping. Do we lose the majority of that with the expansion, or does that get reprogrammed in the development?
I think the applicant would be best able to answer that question as to where they foresee and how they see the addition or the expansion being placed on the site, but it does appear from the materials provided that some of that landscaping space, or a good portion of it, would be repurposed for a structure. And it potentially wouldn't, there is no indication that that landscaping would be placed anywhere else.
So is the landscaping a requirement of the master plan, or it's simply an amenity that could evaporate?
The latter.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for staff, commissioners? All right. Thank you very much again. And at this point, we'll open the public hearing and invite the applicant to the lectern to address the matter. Before you start, just wanted to know if you had read the conditions of approval and if you are in agreement with them.
We have read them and we are in agreement.
All right.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Todd Smith, Director and CEO of the Orange County Museum of Art. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing our team to present our project tonight. I'll be joined in a minute by Brandon Welling, Managing Principal with Morphosis Architects from Los Angeles. We're doing slides old school here, so I'll be looking at Dan to forward them for me. The Orange County Museum of Art is pleased to submit our plans for our new home in Costa Mesa as part of Segerstrom Center for the Arts. We're excited to take up residence in the City of the Arts and open the doors of a building that will serve the needs of Orange County and help the museum fulfill our mission in a bolder fashion. Shaped by our mission to enrich the lives of a diverse and changing community, we have provided the best in modern and contemporary art to the residents of the OC since 1962. From our humble beginnings in Newport Beach 57 years ago, the museum has built a significant collection of modern and contemporary art that has been appreciated here and abroad, organized and hosted important special exhibitions, provided school tours to thousands of students, and exposed 3 generations of Orange County residents to the most beautiful and thought-provoking work by artists from California, the United States, the Pacific Rim, and the world. Our new home and our new location will allow us to continue our mission and most significantly build on that reputation. Designed by Tom Main and the team at Morphosis, the new museum will be a work of architectural significance and an addition to the design vocabulary of the region. A Pritzker Prize-winning architect, Tom Main has designed and built structures of stunning brilliance, marrying innovative techniques with arresting results. And we could not think of a better location to build our new home than in the heart of it all at the Segerstrom Center. The location is unmatched, and the arts organizations that call the center home and perform there are models for arts programming around the country and the world. The museum's own international standing is well suited for this new location and will complete the vision for the campus. First and foremost, our new home will be a showplace for the visual arts. With almost half of the building dedicated to exhibition space, we will ensure that the best of our collection and the best of the world's art will always be on view. Our new home will feature galleries devoted to our permanent collection, a collection of over 4,500 objects that has been enjoyed locally, nationally, and internationally. In 2016 alone, over 1.2 million museum goers saw works from our collection in exhibitions around the United States and Europe. Known for our broadly defined and entertaining exhibition schedule, we will be able to build on this reputation in our new home. With over 550 exhibitions under our belt, we look forward to expanding the opportunities for presenting the world's modern and contemporary art. Acknowledged for our ability to identify and nurture young talent through our exhibition program, we have played a meaningful role in launching the careers of many of contemporary art's shining stars. Additionally, galleries will allow the museum to host exhibitions from around the world in state-of-the-art galleries. These will range from traveling exhibitions seen nowhere else in Southern California and will include not only the traditional media of painting, sculpture, drawing, and the like, but significantly will introduce design in all of its permutations to our audiences. Core to the mission of the museum is our education program. We have served hundreds of thousands of students from pre-K through graduate school in our history. Our new home offers even greater opportunities for reaching the hearts, minds, and imaginations of students from all across the OC. Our new location will also ensure that significant collaborations with other residence arts organizations will grow and continue. It's now my pleasure to introduce Brandon Welling, who will give more insight into the building itself. Thank you.
Hello. It's an honor to present this project to you guys tonight, and I just want to say that we've been working on the project for a long time, and we really see the site as a kind of the last piece of the puzzle of the Secrets from Center. It's a distinguished architectural context. As an architect designing a project there, it's a great honor to be in this context, and also allows us to essentially approach the project in a hyper-contextual way, in a way that we would not have an opportunity to have done otherwise. Much of my presentation will be a bit repetitious to Dan's, but at the same time, will hopefully just provide a little bit more context and answers to some of the questions that you might have. The site, as you can see highlighted here in yellow, located on the Avenue of the Arts, the pedestrian and vehicular access there. Next. The back up one, sorry about that. Yeah, back up two. There you go. As we were saying, the utility and the service element of the project has been, trying to get a little feedback here, has been closely kind of monitored. It's all enclosed right off of Avenue of the Arts, so the access is limited to there. And there's it can accommodate a 50-foot tractor trailer inside with the gate closed and everything, so everything is completely enclosed. We have the existing drop-off points surrounding the site, and then the location for the bus drop-off that we're proposing along Avenue of the Arts there. Existing parking facilities. And one of the things that this kind of leads us to is the pedestrian access to the building. And really, in many ways, it is a building in the round. The building has been designed from all sides and is meant to be really without a front. That being said, there is definitely a front door to the building. We took a lot of influence from the existing plaza that's coming from the town center drop-off there, and really we're looking at that as an extension of the public space. So the building itself is essentially just an extension of this plaza up into the roof terrace. Formally, the building has developed around two kind of main ideas. One is a deference to the existing Sarah sculpture that you have on the site there called Connector. The building is meant to kind of fold and kind of defer to that. It reacts to that. The second larger kind of concept that drove everything was this large open roof terrace that we were talking about. And the integration of green space in that elevated area. We have this kind of row of trees that are continuing along Avenue of the Arts, essentially street trees that are kind of lifted up onto the building, acts as a backdrop to that roof terrace. This has kind of resulted in a return of the existing kind of parkland setting that you guys were kind of originally using the site for now, and a return of approximately 70% of the site to open area. So conceptually, we like to say that we kind of just lifted up that park and then slid a building underneath and then remained with the park area on top. These are some of the views that you saw previously. That roof terrace there, this is from the existing plaza, so towards the main entrance there, and you can see the roof terrace up above and the education classroom up there. Next. Just quickly going through the building, and we'll go through these quite quickly. The public space is a building fronting on the plaza. We have the museum reception area and the store, the main entrance. There's a small cafe fronting the plaza as well for museum goers. And then there's a series of, this is that kind of view towards that plaza and the area. And then there's these three gallery types, essentially the special exhibition gallery, the permanent collection gallery. And this view, if you kind of take note of this, the big kind of open flexible spaces, if you kind of look through on the far right of this image right here, you can kind of see out to the Avenue of the Arts. Next. One of the unique aspects of this project is we're trying to engage visitors and pedestrians and all the public in general. So there's a window gallery along Avenue of the Arts. This is where you can kind of see into and get a sense of the artwork inside. And this is a view of the model that shows that. So along that, this is directly elevational view of that window gallery. Moving up, there's a smaller mezzanine gallery, much more intimate spaces for art. And then this educational area on the second floor, go through these. This, again, ties back to this image that Todd was showing earlier, so educational and multi-purpose spaces for classroom. There's a pre-function space and a event space. Both of these feed out to the roof terrace and the green space out there. A couple of views of this. The idea from the beginning was that this roof terrace would be a unique, entirely unique experience for outdoor sculpture, exhibitions, events at the museum and things of that nature. But a lush landscaped area, completely flexible. There's a couple more views of these. But also differentiation of zones, so some more kind of larger, lush areas, and then the event areas where some of them can be much more intimate. I'm going to pass it back to Todd right now, and then I can answer any more of your questions after that if you like.
And so just to conclude, on the slide, Dan, good deal. The Orange County Museum is committed to enhancing Costa Mesa's designation as the City of the Arts by constructing a world-class home that sets a new standard for architecture in the region while complementing the existing aesthetics of the center and the area. By serving as a premier venue for the visual arts of the 20th and 21st centuries, by providing access to the wonders and potential of our visual world, by educating and entertaining students of all ages, and by adding to the richness of life in Costa Mesa and the region. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? All right. Oh, you have a question.
I'm the only one, huh? Okay, well, I promised I would re-ask my questions, so I'll go ahead and do that. I love the second floor terrace, and I appreciate that you try to evoke the open space that's being replaced. I'm wondering, are all areas of the second floor terrace ADA accessible?
Yes.
Okay.
All of the active spaces. The passive landscape is not accessible to any visitor.
Okay, and then I understand that down the road, phase 2 would include, you guys would replace that passive landscaping with something else.
A portion of it, right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so do you have any plans to to add landscaping to any other areas? I mean, I know you can't break ground, but maybe through potted plants or other ways to maintain that green space feel?
You mean after we add the addition?
After you add the addition?
I would imagine that we would want to increase the landscaping available on the terrace as much as possible once we do add a 10,000 square foot addition.
Okay. And will any of the interpretive materials inside the museum be in another language?
Currently, we do not offer multilingual learning opportunities within the museum. We are looking to alter that in our current location in Santa Ana, and of course extend that into our new home in Costa Mesa.
Okay, yeah. And
starting with Spanish and hopefully moving into Mandarin.
You know, what I was trying to advocate was for some Spanish interpretation, only because, you know, I was an immigrant. Growing up as an immigrant, you didn't really get exposed to art a whole lot, and partly because we couldn't read anything, right? So we would often go to museums where we could at least try to understand the exhibits a little bit more. I know that San Diego is doing a lot of, if you go into most of their museums, a lot of their exhibits are in Spanish and English, and Costa Mesa is 40% Hispanic, so I hope perhaps I can just suggest that you move in that direction. Do you know if there is any free parking available to Costa Mesa residents in the, I think I recall from another project that was within this master plan that free parking was available to Costa Mesa residents, I want to say after 5 o'clock. Do you remember, Mr. Inlows? There was, are you aware of anything like that?
No, I'm not aware of anything.
Okay.
You have several other directors of the organizations at Segerstrom Center here, so they might be able to answer that question.
Okay. And then I understand the city also has a bus, you know, that links some of these areas. Do you know if this will be one of the one of the stops on that shuttle. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I think that's all my questions for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, I'm going to invite members of the public up to address this, and you'll have an opportunity to either rebut or address any of their comments afterwards. Okay, at this point, I'll invite members of the public to the microphone if you have any comments on this item. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Liz McNabb, and I am the district coordinator for Assemblywoman Kati Petrie-Norris, as well as being the chair of the Costa Mesa Parks and Recreation Commission. And I would just like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Orange County Museum of Art on an exceptional project. We look forward to the development and the implementation of this project. I think it's critical to the success of the region, the district, and the county to provide arts education for our citizens and our community, and we really look forward to partnering with you in this endeavor. So thank you so much for a beautiful presentation, and congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to do something with this card?
Yeah,
Yes.
you can do it afterwards.
Great. Okay,
Thanks.
great. Thank you. I always like to, well, not really follow the rules, but anyway, thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening. I am Paula Tomei. I'm the managing director of South Coast Repertory, which happens to be in the same neighborhood as the Orange County Museum of Art, and we're very excited that they're coming up to be part of the neighborhood. We are Costa Mesa's nationally renowned Tony Award-winning professional theater, producing 13 plays each season, and we have one of the largest new play commissioning programs. We have a thriving acting conservatory. We connect with tens of thousands of Costa Mesa and Orange County residents through our education and outreach programs, and we introduce live theater performances to the students through the area through free and discounted ticket programs, and employ a staff of 75 local arts professionals and artisans. So all told, last year alone, we served over 130,000 residents of Orange County. As a result, South Coast Repertory's vision of creating the finest theater in America is alive and thriving here in the City of the Arts. We're excited to welcome the Orange County Museum of Art to the Sagerstrom Center for the Arts. Doing so will provide a fully rounded arts resource for the citizens of Costa Mesa and the whole of Orange County, with the visual and performing arts in one hub. We've enjoyed partnering with the Orange County Museum of Art in the past, most recently in conjunction with the play Red about artist Mark Rothko. Our audiences benefited from the museum's experience. In this case, it was Todd Smith himself, who gave a pre-show talk about the artist and influential architects and others who influenced him. It was a perfect example of arts collaboration that gained a wider reach. With the Orange County Museum of Art just steps away from South Coast Repertory, we see the opportunity for collaboration and increased partnerships for our audiences. And for our audiences specifically, it will be such a boon to have the Art Museum open prior to our performances. Speaking for our staff, I can tell you that there's already great excitement and enthusiasm about the proximity of the museum to South Coast Repertory, because visiting the museum at lunchtime and participating in the programs they offer will be an activity that they will participate in. From South Coast Repertory's earliest days, we know how important the arts are to a community and a community's cultural fabric. The Sagerstrom family knew that when they gifted the theater land on which to build its permanent home, and then to include 2 additional performance venues, and now a museum. The Orange County Museum of Art will round out that experience. By adding the Orange County Museum of Art, Costa Mesa can take a major step forward in deepening its reputation as the City of the Arts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present to the Commission. I am Terry Dwyer, President of the Sagerson Center for the Arts, and I'm here representing the Center and the board committee that oversees our relationship with the Orange County Museum of Art. The Center is very excited in general about OCMA becoming associated with and integrated with the Art Center, and as city staff has noted, there is a desire for this. There's a desire on the part of the city to make sure that the museum's operations are integrated with the existing services provided to the public by the Arts Center. By way of background, the museum parcel was gifted to OCMA by the center in 2008. At that time, the center and the museum entered into an agreement under which OCMA agreed to a number of conditions related to the development of the property. These conditions were for the benefit of and enforceable by the center and are contained in an agreement to transfer land dated June 2nd, 2008, which has been amended several times. The last such amendment expired in June of 2016. In late 2016, the center and the museum commenced discussions related to a new amendment to the agreement to transfer the land in order to address a number of issues related to the design and operation of the museum, including, amongst others, delivery of the final plans and specifications for the museum, commencement of vertical construction, and operations of food and beverage services on the museum parcel. While the center and the museum have nearly completed the negotiations for the terms and conditions for this new amendment, neither party has yet executed it. The center expects that the amendment will be ready for execution by the parties within 30 days, but in any event, we believe that the amendment should be executed before a building permit is issued pursuant to the master plan if approved by the city. Therefore, the center requests that a condition of approval be added to the conditions attached to application number PA-18-28 to accomplish this goal, and that we have provided in the letter that I've distributed suggested language with the enclosure as an enclosure to this letter. And it's my understanding that the Orange County Museum of Art has approved this language as an additional condition of approval. The center has, as I mentioned, has discussed this with the museum. I'd also wanted to note that if the museum does not meet the conditions in the agreement to transfer land as amended, the center is then entitled, pursuant to the terms of the gift, to exercise reverter rights with respect to the museum parcel, thereby reacquiring ownership of that property. So we propose that the additional condition of approval to the master plan be adopted with the language as follows. The museum and the Sagerson Center for the Arts, as parties to that certain agreement to transfer land dated June 2nd, 2008, and as amended, shall complete negotiations and execute the amendment to agreement to transfer land, which amendment negotiations had commenced in late 2016 within 30 days of issuance of the master plan, and in no event shall a building permit be issued under the master plan without the execution of the amendment by the museum and the Sagerson Center for the Arts. That's our request, and thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Karen Everts. I've lived in Orange County for 45 years. Actually lived next door in Newport Beach. I'm here this evening to say hooray to the proposed addition of a contemporary art museum, Orange County Museum of Art. We fondly call it OCMA, although every so often we say OCMA, but I think we want OCMA. We want OCMA, okay. To the Sagerstrom Center for the Performing Arts. I'm a longtime museum docent at OCMA since the mid-90s when it was still called the Newport Harbor Art Museum. It was tucked behind the fire station in Fashion Island until about 6 months ago when the property was sold and it opened temporary quarters in South Coast Village. We call it OCMA Expand. It was local visionary Henry Sagerstrom intention that not only would Costa Mesa South Coast Plaza be a worldwide shopping destination, but also that the city would be a world-class arts center for all of Orange County. Now, my husband Don and I were early supporters, boosters, and donors to the first Sagerstrom Concert Hall, which opened with trumpets flaring. Actually, they were these long medieval trumpets. They were wonderful. In September of 1986. Then came South Coast Repertory Theater, I believe in 2002, and then the second concert hall, Renee and Henry Sagerstrom, and the small Samueli Theater in 2006, but you know all this. And now it's time for Contemporary Visual Arts of California and the entire Pacific Rim to be added to the mix, in particular, the Orange County Museum of Arts. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sofia Gutierrez, and I actually grew up between Mexico City and Costa Mesa, and I'm a museum professional. Having grown up here, but also in Mexico City. Sorry, I got nervous. So as a museum professional, but again, having grown up in Orange County, in Costa Mesa, the only access that I had to the arts was actually the Newport Harbor Art Museum at the time. I went to Newport Harbor High School, but I lived in Costa Mesa, which is something that a lot of us kids had to, in order to see the arts, we had to go to Newport. But again, the beach was our backyard. The museum was our playground. And I mention this because this opened a world to me. Again, having come from a city that's surrounded by the arts, I had nowhere to go as a child but to Newport Harbor, to the Newport Harbor Art Museum. But this actually opened, for me, a pathway to arts education. And having worked in world-class museums in Los Angeles for over 35 years, and recently moving back to Costa Mesa, my parents always lived here by the Back Bay and the East Side. I was so excited to actually come back and give back to the museum, now known as the Orange County Art Museum. So I'm thrilled and also honored to be able to volunteer now, and now to see that we will hopefully have a world-class museum here in Costa Mesa for again, kids like me who grew up between different cultures. And I was really excited to hear that that you're interested in also asking about museum education, because that's what we do in museums. But thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any other members of the public wish to address this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll invite the applicant back and can either address some of the public comments or provide a closing if you want.
We're excited to move this project forward, and thank you for your consideration.
All right, I do have one question for you, though. One of the public speakers came up and had a proposed condition of approval, and I wanted to know if you, as the applicant, were okay with that condition of approval that's being proposed, which isn't to say it'll be adopted, it's just I'm asking if you're okay with that.
The museum is okay with that condition.
All
We
right.
are in the last stages of the negotiation of the land transfer agreement.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
So I want some clarification on this. In this letter from the Segerstrom Center for the Arts landed on the dais about 10 minutes, more than 5 minutes before the meeting started.
Well,
I want.
It's a question for you, I think, at this point.
It is. So, and I want to make sure my understanding, Mr. Dwyer may be able to help out as too. So from my understanding is the original agreement to transfer land dated June 2nd, 2008 was the subject of a couple of amendments which have since expired. My question is, does there currently exist an agreement to transfer land at all?
The original 2008 agreement still stands. The amendment that updated it has expired.
Okay, so
that's
the
why we're in those.
2008 agreement still stands.
There have been amendments to that have expired.
Okay. Okay.
Is that, all right, any other questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. I'm going to close the public hearing, and at this point, it comes back to the commissioners. I've got a question, I guess, regarding this letter, and I'm not sure which staffer is probably the best to answer this, but my reading of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this would be an agreement between two private parties of which the city is not, it's not a party to this, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And as far as adopting this proposed condition of approval that we just received, like Vice Chairman Derrickle said about 10 minutes before the meeting started, this condition would only be, I mean, essentially the city would be conditioning an approval on two private parties entering into some separate agreement that we don't even, that we haven't seen, nor do we know any of the details of, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, any other questions or?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So I also had a question kind of related to this subject, and it has to do with the process the city uses when an applicant applies for a building permit. And my question is, what do you do to determine whether the applicant has an ownership interest or represents an ownership interest in the land for which they're seeking a building permit?
So before an applicant can seek entitlement, it has to provide a application which requires a signature of an owner on the application itself. And a process very similar to that process is done when a project is coming in for development.
So for this piece of land, how would you determine who the owner of this land is?
We review city and county records, and according to what we reviewed, the ownership identified on record is OCMA.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Vice Chairman Derrickle.
So, Mr. Inlows, based on what you said, who is actually in possession of the deed? Do you know?
So our records are equivalent to what the county has. So in terms of asking for a copy of the deed or something else like that, that is not typically part of our process.
Right.
If the commission had a question as to ownership in this case, certainly we could request copies of the private agreements that we're discussing this evening and have our attorneys look into it, but that is not the normal part of our process.
So you're comfortable that based on the research you've done that OCMA is the owner?
That's our indications, yes.
Okay, thank you. If I could, Mr. Chairman, one quick question on one document. On condition 9, it says the landscaped area on the second floor outdoor terrace shall remain passive landscape space and will not be used for events. What happens to that condition when phase 2 comes, they come to the city to start phase 2?
So the entitlement seek tonight will include the 10,000 square foot expansion. So when the museum is ready and prepared to proceed forward with the 10,000 square foot expansion, that they would provide building plans to show us that they're in compliance with building code and development standards. This condition, as written, would state that the passive landscaping space couldn't be used for events. It wouldn't fly in condition of building an actual structure there, because it would no longer be landscaping space if they built a building.
Okay, so I just, and maybe I'm reading something that I shouldn't, but it says landscaped area on the second floor shall remain passive landscaping, provided it exists, essentially.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I think that does it for me. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions, or somebody want to make a motion? All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would move that the commission adopt a resolution to approve the master plan subject to the findings in Exhibit A, conditions of approval as presented by staff in Exhibit B, and approve an amendment, addendum to the previously approved final program environmental impact report number 1047.
All right, I'll second that. Any discussion on the motion? All right.
No, just, Mr. Chairman, I want to, just a couple of personal thoughts. I remember when the Orange County Performing Arts Center opened. I think I was the editor of Orange Coast Magazine back in that day, and we actually did a feature story on it coming in. It was kind of like, it was really kind of a huge event with respect to Costa Mesa's history and it becoming truly the City of the Arts, which is a designation the city only formally adopted in 1999. But at any rate, that was kind of the shockwave that kind of woke up all of Orange County that said Costa Mesa was trending to become the City of the Arts. And then, of course, the Segerstrom Concert Hall and all the contributions that significant families have made, the Segerstroms, the Samuelis, the Argeroses, to make this area truly, I think, the cultural center of Orange County and a major one in Southern California that is unrivaled. And I think to have the visual arts represented in such a dynamic way really kind of puts the exclamation point on this city's very more than credible reputation as a world-class arts center. And I'm very proud to support this project, and I'm looking forward to it becoming a reality very soon.
All right, any other comments on the motion?
I have a quick one. I'm super excited about this project. What a great way to start the new year for Costa Mesa. I think art is such an integral part of our learning. You know, it massages the same areas of the brain that help you do mathematics, and it's so great for our students to have that kind of exposure and just expand their minds. I often attend the Art Gyros events. They're free. And I always ask people where they're coming from. And it's interesting, they're from Westminster, Santa Ana, Tustin, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, and they're all coming to Costa Mesa. So I think this is the perfect addition to an already perfect space. And I welcome all the new faces that we're going to see from all the surrounding cities and putting Costa Mesa on the map. So thank you for this project.
Just before I call for the question, I want to say too that I'm very excited about this project. When I heard about this some years ago and had the pleasure of being right nearby and seeing this open field and saying someday this is going to be an art museum, and I thought that was really neat. And and one of the best parts of being a planning commissioner is being there kind of at the beginning when you kind of hear about the project and you see just an open field, and then finally here at the beginning of 2019 we get to see towards kind of the end of my tenure as a planning commissioner, get to see and approve this project, and it'll be awesome. It's nice seeing the model, but man, it's going to be great someday to see the building there and be able to go with my family and with others and experience art in Costa Mesa. It's going to be great. Anyhow, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call for the question.
That motion carried 5-0.
All right, and that decision can be appealed to the City Council and becomes final in 7 days. All right, moving right along, we'll move to planning public hearing item number 2.
Public hearing item number 2. Planning application 18-23, variances from interior landscaping and setback requirements with a minor conditional use permit for compact parking to accommodate the expansion of a private parking lot into public right-of-way with an encroachment permit at 234 East 17th Street. This is a call to report any ex parte communications.
Okay, seeing none, staff presentation. I'll give you a minute.
Chair and Planning Commissioners, the applicant has indicated to staff that they intend to request a continuance for this item. It's up to the pleasure of the commission as to how to proceed from here.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that last part.
Up to the commission as to how you wish to proceed.
Ah, okay. Commissioners, thoughts on that?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we continue this item to the January, whatever the second meeting, January 28th meeting of the Costa Mesa Planning Commission.
I think I'd.
Do we have? Yes.
I think I'd want to ask if there's members of the public here who wish to address the item so we could take public comment.
Are there?
Are there any members here of the public who wish to address this item?
Then I'll withdraw my motion then, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, if I may first, is the applicant present at this time?
I don't know.
The applicant is present, yes.
Okay. Okay. So if you could then just open the public hearing before you take the public comments. And then just as a matter of due process, I'd like to make sure the applicant is present and able to hear and be prepared at whatever point to respond to those issues.
Okay. All right. So at this point, do we just open the public comment and not have the staff report and the staff presentation and all that, or?
Correct. Yeah. If it's only the intention to just hear what these presenters have, then that's sufficient.
Okay. So it is. We have to have a vote on that, don't we?
To open the public hearing?
Yeah. Or do we just go ahead with open the public hearing?
It's not necessarily to.
All right.
To
okay. So it sounds like we're most likely continue this matter. So at this point, what we're going to do is, because the item was noticed for this evening and members of the public are here, we are going to open the public comment period, and so you can come and address the matter now. And you're certainly welcome to come back and address the matter again. But I'll invite you up to the microphone, whoever wants to address this item now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Trifon, and I'm a resident across the street from the proposed project on Cabrillo Street. And I got to say, what a treat got to see this project be presented. It's really cool. I'm a young architect, so this was really a nice treat for me. I do like to object to the variance request, and I was very happy to hear a couple of you guys mention landscape as being an important aspect of the environment and all of us. And these variance requests are essentially requesting to eliminate all landscape requirements and buffers between a residential and commercial zones, districts. The requirements state that it's required to have a 6-foot landscape parkway, 4-foot sidewalk, 15-foot landscape setback. This request eliminates all of that landscape, providing only an 8-inch planter space between a 6-foot CMU block wall and a 4-foot setback or 4-foot sidewalk that's right up against the curb. I have 3 young kids, the oldest one being 4. We walk down that sidewalk every single day, almost on a daily basis. And I see my kids are starting to pick up things in the landscape planter and play in it, and there's not much landscape area. So it's really nice to have that. And taking that away from the public or from the residents, I think is going to be detrimental to the community and all of us that live on that street. So I respectfully urge you to deny the variance requests.
I got a quick question for you.
Yep.
You live on Cabrillo right there?
Yes.
Has there been a lot of impact from like overflow parking from this site on the street?
I have not noticed it. I am 3 houses away directly from the parking lot, and I know some of my neighbors, I've spoken to them as well, and they have expressed concerns about parking, but they all agree that retaining that landscape is much more important than the parking. And
I just wanted to know from your personal perspective.
Yeah, and I think that parking lot is mostly empty. Yes, it gets busy on Friday evenings, Saturday evenings when the restaurant is full, but for the majority of the time, it's pretty empty. And then the neighboring property, they have a large parking lot, which is always empty. Their businesses do not support that parking lot need. So I'm sure there could be an arrangement where they have a shared parking agreement with the neighboring property without taking away the landscape buffer. Because once that's gone, it's gone. It's permanent. That'll be grandfathered in. We won't get that back.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Do you mind if I ask you a question too?
Sure.
Do you, have you observed a lot of issues with transients using the area?
I'm sorry, with what?
Like homeless people using that
Used to be.
parkway area?
So I grew up at that house, and I was there when I was a kid. I was 10 years old since 1994, and there used to be homeless people when there was bushes, low shrubs planted, and they created a nice little pocket between the wall and the sidewalk. But they removed that probably in 2011 when Greenleaf came in, and since then there hasn't been any.
Okay.
So as soon as that was removed, those low shrubs that created that pocket, we haven't had any issues with homeless people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to address this item?
Mr. Chair, I probably would also just add that, if to the extent that members of the public may want to come, we typically only allow one bite at the apple. So in other words, you get your public comment once. And so to the extent that the applicants, the commenters may want to present at the actual hearing where the applicant will be presenting, we would recommend that they do so at that time.
Okay. I'll try to come back. I'm kind of running up and down the hill. I have another house in Big Bear, but I'll try to come back. But just briefly, I've been living on that street for 30 years, 226. My name is Valerie. The trees are just gorgeous that are there, and we walk up and down that sidewalk frequently. The wall was taken down, and it created more of an open look, with the trees being kind of the buffer between the parking lot and the sidewalk. But it's kind of nice without the wall. The wall was kind of crumbling down anyway. So it's enjoyable, and I just love trees, and I think most people do. Increases property values, a sense of calmness, So I would hope that you would really reconsider this proposition here, because as homeowners there, we really appreciate having that nice landscape buffer there, and it's not really fair to take it away for a private parking lot. That's all. I'll try to come back at the other meeting too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Suzanne Brooker. My property is right adjacent to this property to the parking lot. Now, the way it is now, that they took down the block wall that was along Cabrillo, it has opened it up, like Valerie said, and it's very nice. You have beautiful trees there. There is other ways to give them more parking than to encroach on our property. I feel like I keep getting encroached upon more and more since Greenleaf moved in. So I'm very much against this. I hope you'll reconsider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to address this item? All right, and you said we should probably invite the applicant if he wants to address it, or if he wants to.
No, I just simply just wanted him to be able to.
Just to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
if I move we continue the public hearing on this item to the Costa Mesa Planning Commission meeting of January 28th.
I'll second that.
If I may, the 28th, the staff deadlines for that packet is actually just in a few days from now. So February 11th would be the first possible date for us.
So I'll amend the motion to the meeting of February 11th.
Second, the seconder is amenable to the amendment. And with that, I'm going to call for the question.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I have 3 questions I'd like to ask staff, if I may.
I would strongly recommend that we just continue the matter and hear all evidence at that time.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call for the question. And this is just a motion to continue.
That motion carried 5-0.
All right, and seeing as that's a continuance, that's not something that can be appealed to City Council, I don't believe. And, all right. Okay, I've been informed that there's no departmental reports from Public Services, Development Services, nor from the City Attorney, and unless things have changed since before the meeting, let me know now. Nope, okay. All right, well then we are going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting to the next regular meeting, which is scheduled for January 28th, 2019 at 6 p.m. right here in this room, same bat time, same bat channel. Have a good evening, bye.